In today's fight news, UFC Atlantic City has just wrapped up, and here are your fight results. Let's start off with a cancellation moments before the walkout between Melissa Gatto and Victoria Dudakova. According to MMA Junkie, there was a medical issue on the side of Dudakova. At welterweight, we have Chidi Njoku defeating Reese McKee by split decision. At featherweight, we have Kyle Nelson defeating Bill Algeo via TKO in the first round. At middleweight, Nursultan Ruziboev defeats Cedricus Dumas by first round KO. Also at middleweight, former champion Chris Weidman defeats Bruno Silva via unanimous decision. The fight was originally declared a TKO, but after video review, the judge declared it a stoppage up to the point of the eye poke. In the co-main event, welterweight, Joaquin Buckley defeats Vicente Luque via TKO in the second round. And for the main event, women's flyweight, Manon Farah defeats Erin Blanchfield via unanimous decision. Now to the bonuses of the night. First off, we have Fight of the Night, Arslan versus Turkal. Performance of the night goes to Nate Landwehr. Also for Performance of the Night, we have Dennis Buzukija. As we mentioned earlier, former champion Chris Weidman won by a controversial decision due to an eye poke. On social media, here are some of the comments from the fighters around the league. Marab, the Machine Dvalishvili. Yes, at Chris Weidman, UFC Atlantic City. Bilal Muhammad. Punch a hole in his fudging eye. Justin Gaethje had to say. Too bad UFC don't want to change those gloves. Sodiq Yusuff. That's just wrong, man. With everything that comes with losing a fight, I feel for Bruno. And Brian Boom Keller. I'm sorry, but there's some favoritism taking place here. More reactions on X. Diana Belbita. No, I guess eye pokes are legal now. Adrian Yanez. That's unfortunate. Derek Brunson. No contest, the only play here. And finally, O'Day Osborne. These eye pokes tonight. Jeesh. Now on to some call-outs for the night. At bantamweight, Colin Loughran calls out Raul Rosas Jr., saying, I think the kid's I'll punch his effing head in. I feel like a head calling out an 18-year-old. Coming off a TKO win over Vicente Luque, welterweight standout Joaquin Buckley is calling for a main event against MVP in the St. Louis card. After an impressive KO win tonight, Nursultan Ruziboev calls out for a matchup against Gerald Meerschaert, stating, tell him to get ready, I'm coming for him. In other news, featherweight and Performance of the Night winner Connor Matthews got the attention of none other than UFC superstar Conor McGregor as McGregor took to X. Who the F is this Connor Matthews guy? I'm the only Connor in the UFC. The Notorious also wrote, Connor Matthews, you taking everything I worked for, MFer. McGregor also wrote, Connor Matthews is with the cartel? What the F? Here we go again, ha ha ha. Southpaw as well, he is. And lastly, McGregor wrote, I've decided to change Connor Matthews' name to Matthew Connors to save confusion. Speaking of Conor McGregor, former UFC heavyweight Brendan Schaub had this to say on his Extra Thick podcast. If you look at what Conor's brought into the UFC money-wise, he's the most underpaid athlete, probably of all time. After his win tonight at UFC Atlantic City, former middleweight champion Chris Weidman had something to say about Conor McGregor as well, speaking on coming back from a leg injury. I think that he, McGregor, probably learned a lot watching my fight. Some of the red flags of what to be prepared for whoever he fights, and also maybe you're not going to be able to throw the kicks back as much as you want. Or now, be prepared that could be something you have to deal with, so really train on kicking back. In other news, UFC middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis had this to say to My MMA News in regards to possibly facing Khamzat Chimaev. As the champion, I would gladly take out the boogeyman. Tim Welch, the coach of UFC bantamweight champion Sean O'Malley, had this to say about his upcoming opponent, Merab Dvalishvili. Merab's never fought no one like the Sugar Show, who can put your lights out with one punch. Interim heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall had this to say on his YouTube about a potential rematch with Curtis Blades. I'd like to fight Curtis Blades because when I fought him, I got injured, and that means that technically he wins, and I don't like that. I want to be the winner, not Curtis Blades, so all respect to Curtis and everything. Longtime UFC commentator John Anik recently spoke with MMA Junkie on why Bo Nickel fighting on the UFC main card makes sense. You parlay their fight style with the expectation and the pressure and the fanatry, and I just think Bo Nickel checks a lot of boxes. Recently, while on an episode of the MMA Hour, lightweight Renato Moicano had this to say about possibly fighting Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. I'm all about the money. If they offer me good money to fight Paddy Pimblett, why not? He's a free paycheck. Just announced, UFC will make their return to Newark for UFC 302 on June 1st. And we finish the show with a couple of fight announcements. Welterweight Phil Rowe will take on Jake Matthews at UFC 302 on June 1st. On the UFC St. Louis card on May 11th, we have heavyweights Derek Lewis taking on Rodrigo Nascimento.